Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week of Tim's News Explosion on this Monday, the 17th of October, 2022. We are live on the Wilmsfront YouTube, D-Live and Odyssey channels. Hello to everyone in the live chat, the regulars, Lady of Charlotte, Kesho. No, I'm not a deep fake. Peak Aussie Men. And Hadron, well, you'll find out who is cancelling Kanye a bit later in the show. And also, as always, on the interactive entropy software, we can ask myself a direct question or send through a super chat to support this program and other Unshackled productions. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where the flash flooding devastation that began to unfold last Wednesday is where the national eye has been focused. We have 3 days of sunshine at the beginning of this week, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, before the rains return again on Thursday. The epicenter of the flood damage is around the regional towns of Echuca and Shepparton in the north, and in Melbourne's inner west around the Maribyrnong River. Sadly, a 71-year-old died in the town of Rochester. So that is sad that there's been a loss of life. Now, as if some Victorians aren't suffering enough, Dan Andrews' daily press conferences are back.
Thanks very much for joining us here at the State Control Centre. The Minister and I are joined by, of course, Andrew Crisp, Tim Weebush from EMV and SES respectively, and Assistant Commissioner David Clayton from Victoria Police joins us today as well.
Now, even though Dan's at the State Control Centre, not in front of the purple wall of doom, as during the COVID lockdowns, the return of these daily presses are certainly very re-traumatising for many Victorians whose lives were controlled by Dan based on what he said at his daily press conferences. And so Dan has been busy on his socials, showing that he is on the job, and there's a lot of pointing at maps by this commander here. So this is one of Dan Andrews' tweets, because he did the press conference with Albo yesterday. He said, "I've just been with the Prime Minister in Bendigo getting latest on the flooding. Here's what you need to know." Now, you recall from a famous movie that the downfall of a certain historical dictator was occurring when he was pointing at maps. And so there's been a lot of memes about Dan pointing at maps. There's this one. This is where we flattened an elderly woman, then pepper sprayed the shit out of her. There's one from Danger Dan Andrews. Let's be clear, if we lock everyone up for 14 days, that should stop the flooding. Nearest staircase is right here, Dan. And of course, back in 2019, Dan Andrews said that there was no point building dams. The Victorian government has ruled out new dams, saying climate change means not enough water would flow into them to make them worthwhile. Certainly, the Victorian Greens, they have been saying this is not ordinary. This must be due to climate change. And I know that some in the freedom movement, and Kesho has said here, do they control the geoengineering from there? There are some in the freedom movement who believe that these extreme weather events and the flooding of 2022 has been geoengineered by cloud seeding, starting with Lismore, because Dom Perrottet said that he wanted to build back better the town of Lismore. And I know that Anthony Kaloof, who runs Australian versus the Agenda, Rafael Fernandez, and Andy Nolch all believe in chemtrails and cloud seeding. One of the theories that I saw is that these floods have been geoengineered so that Dan can reopen his Mickleham, or I guess you wouldn't call it a quarantine camp anymore. You would call it a emergency camp, our own FEMA camps here. So 250 beds will be opening up for those who have been displaced due to the flash flooding. And there are reports tonight that some looting is going on around flooded houses in the Maribyrnong, which is absolutely disgraceful, disgusting. Now, but if you wanted probably a more well-grounded explanation as to why there has been this flooding, particularly around the Maribyrnong, because it's been raining all over Victoria, but most of Victoria doesn't flood. So Annika Schmidhurst in the Sunday Age reported that hundreds of Melbourne homes could have been saved from flooding in recent days if the former state government had backed a push to dam the Maribyrnong River, hydrology experts say. So hydrology and flood warning expert Jeff Crapper, who was responsible for Melbourne's flood warning service at Melbourne Water from 1989 to 2003, lobbied the Bracks government to build the infrastructure project at Ardell ahead of the 2006 election, but was rejected on environmental grounds. According to the presentation, the infrastructure also would have eliminated the need for a controversial flood wall protecting Flemington Racecourse and reduce reliance on Melbourne's flood warning system, because the Flemington Racecourse has not been flooded because of a flood wall, but it has been reported that the flood wall built there may have worsened the residential inundation as the city begins to clean up from extraordinary floods. Despite objections from residents and local councillors in 2004, the then Labor government approved the wall to protect the racecourse from flooding. Local resident historian Liz Crash said the area around the racecourse has always been a flood plain. She said that when the flood wall was first planned 20 years ago, 3 local councils objected over concerns it would exacerbate flood risk in the area. So there you go again. More state Labor neglect is the main, well, main contributor to making this an unprecedented flooding event around the Maribyrnong. Hello, Melissa. P. Cosman, Australians, I guess, are just gluttons for punishment. So, and as Lady of Charlotte says, they had to trash a whole load of them last week as they'll never be used. The waste of money is mind-boggling. Yes, there'll be more expenses, building back better in inner Melbourne and in regional Victoria as well. But as I said, there could be more to come later in the week. Now, over to the United Kingdom, where if you think that things are dysfunctional in Australia, I mean, the UK is in political paralysis. So Liz Truss, only 40 days since she was appointed Prime Minister, on Friday she sacked her Chancellor and long-time close personal friend, Kwasi Kwarteng, after she announced another U-turn on her mini budget. She already junked personal income tax cuts for the top marginal rate from 45p to 40 pence. Now she's U-turned on stopping a planned increase in corporations tax. So it'll go up from 19 pence to 25 pence. And she chose as her new chancellor Jeremy Hunt, who is the former Health and Social Care Secretary under David Cameron and Theresa May, was briefly Foreign Secretary after Boris Johnson resigned as Foreign Secretary under Theresa May, and he made it to the final two with Boris Johnson at the 2019 leadership vote. Boris Johnson beat him 2-1. And he also ran for the leadership again in 2022. Now, the reason apparently that Kwasi Kwarteng had to go is because he'd spooked the markets. Apparently, the markets and the media run the United Kingdom now. Remember, the IMF were very upset with the mini budget. And so Jeremy Hunt, he is giving his medium-term fiscal plan today. And now, Kwasi Kwarteng lasted 38 days as Chancellor. Liz Truss was elected on a tax-cutting platform with the Tory membership. She has completely junked her whole platform that she ran on to become Prime Minister. And so the Tory backbenchers, or faceless men, as they should be called, are already plotting for a seamless transition to a compromise candidate, or should I basically say that it's, well, what it is? It's a globalist coup d'état. That's what's happening here. I mean, Jeremy Hunt is the ultimate globalist puppet if he was to become the Prime Minister. I mean, he's already being called the de facto Prime Minister, or as some refer to Jeremy Hunt.
As vindicated by the report is grotesque. Two figures who are significant. Jeremy Hunt, because he's a potential leadership candidate.
Now, it's not unfair to refer to Jeremy Hunt as that name because during the COVID pandemic, he was the most vocal MP in favor of a Chinese-style COVID zero policy. This is what he told Independent Sage, which is a COVID zero extremist group in the United Kingdom.
I very much agree with the central point in Gabriel's paper that we should be aiming for zero infection and elimination of the disease, because that is basically the approach taken in countries which have a SARS strategy as opposed to a flu strategy. And those are the countries that have overwhelmingly been the most successful in tackling coronavirus. My sister lives in Beijing, and she flew back to Beijing in the middle of lockdown. And just to give you an idea of the contrast, she was escorted from the airport in Beijing to her home by Ministry of Health officials, and then put into her home for 2 weeks quarantine. The door was sealed, and she had a police car sitting outside her house periodically. And I'm not saying we go that far in this country, but I just think it's an indication of how serious they are in the countries that have had to deal with SARS about stopping at the root every possible source of infection.
What the CCP did and is continuing to do to its citizens is horrific, and it's a international scandal and also horrific human rights tragedy that most of the West, including Australia, followed the CCP-style lockdowns for a lot of 2020 and 2021. Now, Boris loyalist and former Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries, she has rightfully said that if there hadn't been the Boris backstabbers, then none of this wouldn't have happened. With Liz Truss she's not a very strong figure, and the Conservative Party is having tear itself apart because they're now 24 to 33 points behind Keir Starmer, the Labor leader, in the polls. And Nadine Dorries, when Jeremy Hunt was running for Prime Minister in 2022, she spoke to GB News about a conversation she had with Jeremy, who was lobbying for COVID zero at the beginning of the pandemic.
Jeremy contacted me as a health minister and said, you've got to speak to Matt. It was at the time the Nightingale hospitals were being built. You've got to tell him that you
Matt Hancock.
Yeah, you don't put sick people in the hospitals. You follow a zero COVID policy. My wife's family have experience of this. When someone tests positive, you take them from their home and you take them to an isolation centre and you leave them there in the isolation centre. That's the only way you can beat COVID. And I said, Jeremy, the British public will not stand for mothers and fathers and families and children being removed from their family and their home and put in isolation. He says, who said they won't? And I said, well, the Behaviour and Insights team, who I've discussed this with, they won't wear it. And he said, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Show me the evidence for that, because I don't believe it. That's the way we have to deal with this, is a zero COVID policy. Now, we would still probably be in some sort of lockdown if Jeremy Hunt had been made Prime Minister.
Look at China today.
Instead of Boris Johnson.
So who knows what the new shadow Prime Minister Jeremy Hunt has in store for the British people this winter, where there's likely to be energy shortages, blackouts, cost of living continuing to soar, and now a uncompetitive economy as well. Meanwhile, the climate change vandal thug brats have continued with their the destruction of various places and artwork now. So this group Stop Oil poured tomato soup over Van Gogh's sunflowers.
Security.
And then there was spraying outside an Aston Martin showroom, which is obviously a car.
Stopped by injunctions that are intended to silence protest. We're a non-violent civil disobedience movement. We know that the changes in the laws, the injunctions against us, are irrelevant in comparison with mass starvation, with the genocidal policies that our government is pushing for, with their 100 new fossil fuel licenses in the North Sea.
There will be starvation and devastation if the government enacts those policies through your acts of political terrorism, because this is basically they're doing all of this vandalism, blocking traffic, that's their way to basically convince people, to inconvenience them, and their justification. Because I can't believe that GB News platformed some of these people. They said their argument when they're debating these GB News personalities: would you prefer art or life? So is that basically the ultimatum that you're giving, that will destroy historical works of art? Remember, that's what ISIS did, unless you cede to our demands. And also, the radical vegans are also at this as well, destroying dairy products at a local supermarket, which is basically a form of shoplifting.
It's responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than the oil giants like Exxon, Shell and BP. The top 4 dairy companies are responsible for the majority of methane emissions. We want to peaceful protesting on silence because we will not the injustice of an industry. Milk is not suitable for human consumption. When cows are taken from their mothers, when baby calves are taken from their mothers, when mothers are forcibly impregnated. This is a peaceful protest against the campaign Animal Rebellion and are taking direct action to pull out the dairy industry. We are not violent.
We've done every means, other democratic means, they don't work. We've tried voting, we've tried writing petitions.
I mean, an elderly lady could slip on that and hit her head on the ground and die because of this reckless stunt. And now this sort of stuff is beginning to happen here. So at the National Gallery of Victoria, some Extinction Rebellion ferals glued themselves to Picasso's painting, and they were there for more than an hour. And remember that woman, Melly Cooper, who blocked the Sydney Harbour Bridge with her truck during peak hour. Now, despite the New South Wales supposedly having tougher new anti-protest laws, which is up to $22,000 fine or a 2-year jail sentence, the magistrate decided that to let her off because she had climate anxiety. So there you go, because apparently she lives up in Lismore, and so she had climate anxiety during the floods as well. And now I should mention that back in the UK, the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, has called them vandals and thugs. But what are you going to do about it, Suella Braverman? I mean, you said it's your dream to put the illegals on a plane to Rwanda. I mean, you're big on the talk like Priti Patel was, but it's going to be action. Are you going to deport the illegals and jail the criminals? Let's see. Now, up in Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon is trying to pass transgender self-ID laws, which is what we have here in Victoria. You don't need a sexual reassignment surgery, or what it's called now, sex confirmation surgery, to change the gender on your birth certificate. You can change it male to female to whatever every 6 months. If you like. And one of the most high profile and vocal opponents of Nicola Sturgeon's self-ID laws is Harry Potter author JK Rowling, who tweeted, "I stand in solidarity with 4 women Scott and all women protesting and speaking outside the Scottish Parliament. No to self-ID." And so JK Rowling is wearing a shirt. Nicola Sturgeon, noun, destroyer of women's rights. And of course, there's been a huge campaign to cancel JK Rowling. And she replied to this tweet, "How do you sleep at night knowing you've lost a whole audience from buying your books?" And she said, I read my most recent royalty checks and find the pain goes away quickly. Oh, someone needs to call the fire brigade because that was a significant burn that JK Rowling issued there. And now this how do you sleep at night question was also asked to Michael Knowles on his Daily Wire show by a gender studies professor who called into his show.
Hello, Michael. I'm not a longtime listener. I'm not a fan. In fact, I do not support your work in any way. My name is Dr. Ann Lesby, and I am a gender studies professor at ACL University. When I am not educating in the classroom, I dedicate my free time to educating the ignorant on Twitter and exposing dangerous right-wing transphobic fascists such as yourself. Here's my question. Considering the havoc you wreak daily on vulnerable groups such as drag children's performers and sex workers of color, how do you sleep at night?
Really great question, Ann Lesby, Dr. Lesby. One of my favorite Twitter accounts, I would encourage anyone who's not already following Dr. Lesby, Dr. Lesby, Ann, to follow her account. I'm really glad to hear your voice. That's great. How do I sleep at night? With the great comfort of a Helix mattress. That is how I sleep at night.
And in true Daily Wire style, Michael Knowles answers a question with a plug for a sponsor. And yes, I also recommend following Ann Lesby, PhD, she, her. Now, to obviously understand where that name comes from, just to reverse Ann and Lesby, and it spells Lesby Ann. Now, one of the main defenders of Kanye West, as heaps of forces converge to cancel him after his anti-Semitic tweet, is his friend, Candace Owens, also a Daily Wire personality. And obviously Daily Wire was founded by a Jew in Ben Shapiro. And so this was his take on his employee, Candace, defending Kanye.
Addison says, what are your thoughts about Kanye West? Well, I mean, I've made my thoughts about Kanye West pretty clear. I mean, what he said is anti-Semitic. There's no question about it. I mean, what he said is pure, rote anti-Semitism, whether he is talking about DEFCON 3 to Jewish people, whether he's talking about blacks are the real Jews. I mean, this is all anti-Semitism. I do not think it is possible to defend that as not anti-Semitism, which brings somebody else I see is asking about Candace's defense of Kanye's anti-Semitic remarks. So let me just say this. Candace and I disagree about a wide variety of topics. One of the features, not the bugs, of Daily Wire Plus is the fact that we openly disagree about all of this stuff. I share my opinions about what I think Candace is saying. She shares her opinions about what she thinks that I'm saying. We battle it out. It's one of the things that you get at Daily Wire Plus is the fact that there is a wide variety of opinions. Listen, on a personal level, I get Candace defending her friend. She's very close with Kanye West. I get it. I don't think that her defense of Kanye is correct or convincing. I think that the real answer to the Kanye West of it is Kanye is a bipolar human being. I mean, he's made this very clear. I talked about this on the show. And bipolar people tend to say extraordinarily bizarre things and ugly things. And again, that doesn't excuse the bizarreness or the ugliness of the actual remarks, which, as I will say once again for the 1,000th time, are in fact anti-Semitic. But there's a difference between somebody cohesively saying what Kanye West said and Kanye West saying things in broken grammar in the midst of what appears to be a bizarre period of his life in which he is presenting Adidas executives with porn in front of their face. I'm not going to treat that the same as Ilhan Omar saying openly anti-Semitic stuff as an elected congressperson in the United States of America. So when it comes to Candace, I mean, look, am I still friends with, of course I'm friendly with Candace. Am I friendly with Tucker Carlson? I mean, Tucker cut a segment from his interview with Kanye in which Kanye said a bunch of anti-Semitic stuff. Listen, am I friends with Joe Rogan? Joe Rogan had on Roger Waters the other day. Roger Waters is a ridiculous anti-Semitic jerk. I mean, like, wide variety.
So there you go. Ben Shapiro is not going to fire Candace Owens. I mean, he poached her from PragerU, and as you saw, he called Kanye bipolar. He certainly is Kanye, what I call a madman, similar to Elon Musk and Trump. But also, well, he is like to be as successful as Kanye and the other two I mentioned. You've also got to be a stable genius. And even though he's been suspended from Twitter, one of his last tweets was, "Who do you think created cancel culture?" And his bank, JP Morgan Chase, has cancelled him. He is still speaking.
Together. Right. I just want the family back together. Right. Kim is a Christian. On TMZ, I just saw yesterday, they said Pete Davidson and Kim have sex by the fireplace to honor their grandmother. It's Jewish Zionists that's about that life, that's telling this Christian woman that has 4 black children to put that out as a message in the media. So when I drive by and I see the Hulu ads and I say the JP Chase Morgan ads, I'm gonna let y'all know right now, the devil is a defeated foe. You can't poison me. And by the way, y'all done already fuck with me so much. Y'all already black mirrored me. You already made everybody think I'm crazy. You already took my family away. You already separated all my friends. I don't got no celebrity friends. Because when I was on TV, on Instagram saying, I don't know where my child is, and the Kardashians kidnapped my daughter.
There's also a campaign to get his music cancelled off Spotify and Apple Music, led by, guess who? Devere Abramovic of the Anti-Defamation Commission. So he said he's going to be writing to the streaming giants to request they kick the rapper off their platforms. And so this going further down here, this is what Devere said. There is no reason on earth to keep hosting this artist to allow him to thrive while hurting and vilifying vulnerable people. This is not about censorship or free speech, since Kanye can still create music and perform. Well, it's about cancel culture. This is about corporations saying that profits will never come first, and that at a time when Jewish people here around the world are facing an unprecedented surge in violence and harassment, both online and offline, as entertainment titans will take every possible measure to combat this growing threat. He told news.com.au his letter would be sent to the companies on Monday. And Devere also, he has, I'm not sure if he's had some, well, I can click on this article because, yes, there's also been some outrage about these neo-Nazi flyers. And yes, it's the... So yes, it was Devere who actually highlighted these flyers as well. So he definitely is Australia's Captain Cancel, and also he amplifies the hate he is so outraged about, getting it sent to a wider audience. So he tends to feed his haters a lot, Devere, with his comments to the mainstream media and campaigns. Now, already way over time, but there's just so much to get through tonight. Obviously, the continuing campaign to cancel Alex Jones and InfoWars ratcheted up another notch, which with another defamation payout, awarded to the Sandy Hook's families, which he's been ordered to pay them close to $1 billion in damages. Now, I'll make the point that I did last time when the damages bill was at $45 million. I mean, the mainstream media, if they were held accountable for all of the lies, defamation, and tragedy that they have perpetrated on all types of people, I mean, it'd be in the trillions, the damages, defamation payout they'd have to pay. Yes, if it was a just world, the mainstream media would have to pay damages. And also those who misled the public when it came to health advice, like Dr. Fauci, would also have to pay a lot. Now, the January 6th Resurrection show, the next episode is... well, the lead into the next episode is that the January 6th House Committee has sent out a subpoena to President Donald Trump. There is no way that he is going to honor that subpoena. So then that piece of shit, Merrick Garland, will order the FBI to arrest and charge Trump for obstruction of Congress. But there was a plot twist this week. We already knew that Nancy Pelosi didn't prepare a proper defense, make the Capitol secure in the lead up to January 6th, and that's because she was planning to confront Trump herself.
And that's what this is all about.
Secret Service said they have dissuaded him from coming to Capitol Hill. They told him they don't have the resources to protect him here. So at the moment he is not coming, but that could change.
Oh, he comes, I'm going to punch him out. This is
Oh,
my
no,
moment.
I would pay to see
I've
that.
been waiting for this, for trespassing on the Capitol grounds. I'm going to punch him out, and I'm going to go to jail, and I'm going to be happy.
Now, as if Nancy Pelosi, who couldn't even tear a bunch of papers, remember when she tore up Trump's State of the Union speech, she had to get her staff to pre-tear it, as if she could knock Trump out with a punch. I mean, Trump should have just walked up to her and said, hit me with your best shot. Now, she had a documentary crew following her on January 6th. I think it was actually her daughter's documentary crew, because her daughter is a documentary maker. But yet it took 2.5 years for this threat of violence against the sitting president to come out. Yes, exactly. So afraid for her life there. Now, as you know, I like to follow up with news that I've covered in previous Tim's News Explosion. So a couple of weeks back, I brought you the story, which a lot of you would have already been aware of Kayne Lemieux, that transgender wood teacher up in Ontario there, who is teaching, still teaching at the Oakville Trafalgar High School. And the Rebel News reporter, David the Menzoid Menzies, he got kicked out of the last Halton District School Board meeting. So this time he decided to go undercover to confront the school board.
Yeah, so you see, once again, I got the bum's rush. I'm not even sure if they're going to let me in the building or whether their security or even police accomplices are going to keep them protected from impolite questions. What to do? What to do? You know what? The saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em, and I'm a big Wonder Woman fan from the 70s, so let's do the Linda Carter thing and see if the Menzoid can transition himself. I'd like to present a petition called Protect the Students. We've had over 16,000 signatures. It reads, the Halton District School Board and the Director of Education, Curtis Innes, should be fired for allowing a female identifying shop teacher to wear enormous fake breasts that are barely contained by see-through blouses while teaching. Who is going to take this petition?
Peak Ossiman says it's a giant piss take at this point. It has to be. Well, this is what this poster to an Anon-born said. This dude is gaming the system. And Anon here yesterday was in the dude's class. This teacher was fired, was almost fired for toxic masculinity last year, as well as not embracing woke culture. He drops red pills to his class, such as how silly gender-neutral bathrooms are. The school board hates him. Now he's upping the ante to exploit the very clown world the school and society itself created. His long game is most likely to get fired, then sue for discrimination. There is no other explanation, no better way to troll clown world than to become an over-the-top character of a woman. Remember there was that South Park episode where Mr. Garrison tried to get fired for being gay, but the school was so accommodating to him. Now, unfortunately, South Park is not fictional satire anymore. Now, of course, the latest round of Pfizer boosters are around, tailored to the Omicron variant, the bivalent Pfizer vaccine. So there's two. There's one for the original Omicron strain, and then there's for the BA 4 and 5 one. I doubt that they will prevent transmission of COVID like governments originally promoted when they were rolling out Pfizer's vaccine. A member of the European Parliament from the Netherlands, Rob Roos, got this admission from a Pfizer director.
If you don't get vaccinated, you're antisocial. This is what the Dutch Prime Minister and Health Minister told us. You don't get vaccinated just for yourself, but also for others. You do it for all of society. That's what I said. Today, this turned out to be complete nonsense. In a COVID hearing in the European Parliament, one of the Pfizer directors just admitted to me, at the time of introduction, the vaccine had never been tested on stopping the transmission of the virus. This removes the entire legal basis for the COVID passport. The COVID passport that led to massive institutional discrimination as people lost access to essential parts of society. I find this to be shocking, even criminal. Please watch the video until the end.
Voor u, mevrouw Small, heb ik de volgende vraag waar ik een duidelijk antwoord op wil. And I will speak in English so there are no misunderstandings. Was the Pfizer COVID vaccine tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market? If not, please say it clearly. If yes, are you willing to share the data with this committee? And I really want a straight answer, yes or no, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Regarding the question around, did we know about stopping immunisation before it's entered the market? No. We had to really move at the speed of science to really understand what is taking place in the market.
This is scandalous. Millions of people worldwide felt forced to get vaccinated because of the myth that you do it for others. Now this turned out to be a cheap lie. This should be exposed. Please share this video.
And share that video. I have, and yes, the Pfizer vaccine is it's so effective against COVID that the Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla has, despite having 4 Pfizer jabs, has had COVID twice, and of course he's taken his own Pfizer antiviral Paxlovid as well. So the Pfizer CEO, perfect example of how safe and effective. But don't worry, there are still plenty of big pharma defenders in the US Congress. Angie Craig, who's a Minnesota congresswoman running for re-election, this is what she said in a recent debate.
I will never stop standing up for big pharma and standing against my constituents.
Thank you.
Whoops. Yes. I wonder if that was a slip of the tongue or a Freudian slip of the tongue. Now, obviously, the pandemic sequel to COVID, I mean, many had their hopes on monkeypox, but because the most at-risk group, gay, bisexual men and other men who have sex with men, all got vaccinated because they had a pretty good incentive to get the Gynos smallpox vaccine against monkeypox, so they could all get back to their orgies in a safe and effective way. The next outbreak we are told to panic about is Ebola, the Sudanese strain, which there's been an outbreak in Uganda. So there's been 54 confirmed Ebola cases in Uganda and 19 deaths. Now, there is no current vaccine for the Sudanese strain. There is for the other Ebola strain, the Zaire strain. But good news, they're going to be trialing a vaccine against the Sudanese strain on close contacts in Uganda. So good news, already ready to go. Clinical trial on the close contacts there. So in case you haven't had enough vaccines, yes, monkeypox, I mean, it was hardly fatal. I mean, Ebola has something like a 50% fatality rate in Africa. I'd say its symptoms are not good, such as vomiting, diarrhea, bleeding, muscle aches, absolutely horrific there. So you don't even need to spread much fear. It's transmitted through bodily fluids, so blood, saliva, semen, those sorts of things. It's not airborne, but you can also get it through touching dead people who've had Ebola. So it's recommended that once an Ebola patient dies, that their body is cremated, so to make sure that there's no possible further transmission. It's named after the Ebola River in the Congo, which where it was first discovered in 1976. So exactly, Lady of Shalott, keep ramping up the fear. So gone for quite a while tonight, but there was just so much to cover. So thank you to all the regulars once again for tuning in. Hope you found that informative. Now, I don't know if there'll be a Wilmsfront this Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time on the Wilmsfront channels. If there is, it'll be at that time and on those channels. I've just got to see if the guests that I've got will be able to confirm, but there definitely will be a Trad Tasman talk back on Fridays finally with Dewey DeBoer, because Stephen's still having issues with his internet. 6 p.m. Melbourne time, 8 p.m. Auckland time on the Wilmsfront, the Unshackled YouTube channels as well. So thank you once again for your time. Please, everyone, stay safe, stay free, stay healthy, stay dry, and stay happy as well. So good night, everybody.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.